reading to begin and ending. The Mishmash Heart. It's a story from our UU children's curriculum, Love Connects Us. I shared a version of this once before as an opening words, but it's just right for a moment like this. Once upon a time, at a multi-generational event at a Unitarian Universalist congregation, everyone was encouraged to create a heart. They were given some construction paper, some glue, some markers to design their heart. One little girl worked diligently to create the most perfect, beautiful heart she could. It even had glitter in the shape of diamonds all around the edge. As she was helping to clean up, she noticed that the heart of one woman who was around the same age as her grandmother, sitting by a nearby table, it was a mishmash mess of odd colors and pieces which were ripped and torn and glued haphazardly upon it. Parts of it were wrinkled and crinkled, and there was even a little hole in it. Thinking that there was something wrong, the girl offered to help the woman to fix her heart. She knew a thing or two about arts and crafts, this little girl. But the woman merely smiled and explained that there was nothing wrong with her heart. That it merely revealed all the things which had happened to her in her life. She said that there were happy times here, the beautiful colors and designs represented when she first met her husband, their wedding, the birth of each of their 3 children. There were other beautiful parts too, which stood for watching her children taking their first steps, riding a bike for the first time, graduating from college. There was one enormous, glittery, sparkly part that she said was her proudest moment of her work life. But what about all the rips and tears and wrinkles, the girl asked. Why are they there? Well, these were for the sad times in her life, the woman explained. The time her best friend was stricken with measles. The time someone lied or did something to hurt her feelings, and the hole, it was left there when her husband died. In fact, she said, every time a person comes into my life that I care about, they take a piece of my heart with them. This was distressing to the little girl, thinking of the woman having to give away pieces of her heart to others. But what happens if you give away all of it, she asked. You'll be left with nothing. No, I won't, the woman responded with a smile, because you see, they give me a piece of theirs as well. The girl looked down at her beautiful, perfect heart with the glitter and the designs she had worked so hard to make. And then she looked again at the woman's mishmashed heart with the jagged colors, the rips and rings. And without hesitation, she ripped off a piece of her heart and handed it to the woman. Thank you, the woman said, as she placed it with her mishmash heart and tore off a piece to give to the girl. Church is not about a group of people that stays the same. While it can be a place of comfort, a place where we plant our roots and nurture relationships that last a lifetime, in this season of leave-takings, it is too true that it is only one more guest house, one more stop, a passing place where we wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving, come share a meal, sit for a time together, and give one another pieces of our hearts.
Two years ago, when Marcus and I first arrived, we were meeting lots of new people, and we were very new ourselves. We were new to ministry, we were newly married, we were new to New York. And as I look back on this time, I find myself following the stories of some of the people who we met in the very beginning. So Sarah Turnbull is one example. Another example is a young woman who had come back to this area after living in Los Angeles for 10 years. She had been born and raised here and had come home in a tough way. She had left a relationship that she had hoped would be the relationship for her in Los Angeles, and left a career that she had there, and she was coming back home to start all over again. Her heart ached for love, for stability, for connection, for family. And I had this sense that coming to the congregation was a way of saying, I'm hurt, but I'm trying. I'm bruised, but I want to love again. We talked initially, had coffee, and were close in the very beginning, but it faded over time. We were not in close contact the past year. And so it was an amazing moment for me. Just a few weeks ago, it was probably 3 a.m., and that baby was making noises like that.
But a little worse.
A little worse. And I was in the rocking chair, and I was soothing the baby in the middle of the night, and finally he fell asleep. And I put him down, but before I went back to bed myself, I confessed that I spent a moment on social media, on Facebook. Just a moment to myself in the middle of the night. And as I was scrolling through, I saw a picture of this woman who had moved from LA. And she was in a bridal dress shop with a friend. And I was like, what? And I had to do a little bit of sleuthing to find out that indeed it was her who is now engaged and getting married. And it was the middle of the night, but I almost leapt out of my chair with ecstatic cries, because I knew how much she had wanted this and how hard it had been to leave it in Los Angeles, because she knew it wasn't what was really the best thing for her. As a minister, it is the greatest privilege to watch people walk through the seasons of their lives. Knowing people, being really let in, finding out more than doing just fine, thank you. It is an honor to watch and hold the stories of someone's life unfold. I know of no deeper work. The human condition, from what I have seen so far, is this: to love and to lose. Life tugs at us as we wade through the depths of grief and sadness, and over calls us to lean in again. Lean into trust, to relationship. Life mishmashes our hearts together, whether we want it to or not. They do not end up perfectly beautiful, but perfectly capable of loving more beautifully.
Last fall, I planted some tulip bulbs in front of our house. We live in a rental, and I knew, even while I was planting them, I knew back then that these bulbs, we would only see them bloom this one spring. They may grow and bloom again, or they may not. I don't know if there'll be anyone to tend them when we're gone. But I got down in the dirt, the already cold and almost frozen, but not quite dirt, with the trowel anyhow, working with soil, knowing so little of what the future held. Living with sometimes overwhelming uncertainty, I was aware of all I could not do, but this little patch of earth, this was mine to care for, to plant as I saw fit, and so I did. And now, of course, the petals have already fallen. The passing beauty already fading from the moment to memory. Emily and I have learned so much in our time with you. We learned how small group ministry can create the ties and bonds of intimacy that builds larger community, how a monthly potluck can serve as sacred communion. We were inspired by your acts of justice-making and witness, from bringing your own bags to taking action to stop fracking from coming to New York State, to the simple gifts of food collected by the children each month for the Gleaner's Kitchen. That is an image, the kids with the wagons, that will never leave my mind.
We learned how fishermen and vegans can be together in community.
And we will always remember the lessons that we learned here in the dance of leadership and authority, the lessons in the dance of the role of the minister. It's really not an easy dance. And as we move on to the next journey in our career as ministers, we know that this will always have been our first professional ministry. This will always have been our first church. Our experience here has powerfully shaped us and our ministry in some ways that we know already, in some ways which we will surely discover only in years to come. And so the parable of the sower comes to mind. You probably have heard it before. In the church I grew up in, the newsletter was called The Sower, in reference to the beautiful stained glass image that was up above the pulpit, the image of Jean-Francois Millet's painting, a worker walking across the field, hand outstretched, full of seeds. It's a metaphor for ministry, not just the ministry that's our job, our vocation, our calling, but ministry in the greater sense. The ministry that every one of us is called to here, the shared ministry that all of us create together. A metaphor for offering ministry, a metaphor for receiving it. Listen. A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came up and ate them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. I always love that ending. Let anyone with ears listen. You have sown seeds in us. And we have sown seeds here. In your sowing and in ours, it is not the sower's work to ensure the seeds fall on good soil. The sower is not concerned where the seeds fall because his work is in the sowing. He's likely aware of all he cannot do, of all the dangers the seeds he casts will face, of all the challenges there are to growth. Yet he keeps on doing what he can, casting the seeds he has to offer. And somehow it's enough. Somehow, even though so many of the seeds fall on the path or the rocky ground or amongst the thorns, it's all worth doing because some do fall on good soil. And one reading of the parable, of course, is that it is up to us, to all of us, to be good soil.
In our first winter here, Laura Wink and her husband Rob invited us to join their Soul Matters group for supper. And I can still remember that night so clearly. My feet can feel the caution stepping out onto the icy sidewalk and the cool air pulling into my lungs as we trampled down this long driveway hoping it was the right house to find the warm light of the back door. When Laura opened the door, she had an enormous smile on her face, and she was wearing these like Norwegian fuzzy slippers that went, I think, almost up to her knees. Come on in! I felt so welcomed. Right away, I had the sense of being home with my people. Laura has that way about her, I think. And the house was bustling and busy. Edgar was bending over a hot stove while his son Whitman was playing on the Wii with Nola and Ava, Maura and Sean's daughters. Laughter flooded the rooms, and all of the coldness of the outside world faded away. Any anxiety I had about being the new minister faded away. In many congregations on the side of the church, there's a phrase that says, "Come as you are." This phrase caught on when church membership was dropping in the 1970s as a way to encourage people to continue showing up, even as the wider culture was experiencing rapid shifts in social values and falling away from the formalities of dress, of institutional membership, of family structure. Come as you are, you don't need to dress up. Come as you are with dark questions or happy news. Come as you are with wide-eyed babies. Come as you are, troubled in your heart. The phrase hasn't been this magic marketing tool that dramatically changed church membership. And we find ourselves again in this time of rapidly changing cultural practice. The internet is changing how people connect and learn. Families face increasingly complex economic decisions, often requiring them to move often, to be further away from family, further away from institutions that their family has been a part of, perhaps for generations. There's a political climate that is driving fear and mistrust, eroding a sense of security in one of the basic patterns of life. We may not even be able to trust our own Earth's seasons and the predictable climate which guides them. It is a wild world out there, no doubt.
And we know from our conversations with many of you over the last 2 years that at least for some of you, you hold concern about the future of this place, about the future of this community. You look back on years when your children or the children of your friends were here, were still around. You look out at the changing culture, the drift away from church, the way religion has become in the public sphere synonymous with right-wing politics, with backwards thinking. You look around at the limits of the resources available. Only so many hours of staff time, only so many volunteers with energy to give, only so much money that can be raised for capital improvements for the annual budget. Oh, what rocky, thorny ground it feels our seeds are sown upon. But another one of those images that I know I will always remember from our time here is the sanctuary blooming with jar upon jar of Marty's daffodils. How many years have you been planting those bulbs, sowing those seeds?
1,000 a year for 10 years.
10 years. You found good soil, sower. Though, Marty, I hope that you will have many years left to tend your daffodils, there will come a season when the sower must leave his field. There are no guarantees when that day comes that the daffodils will be cared for and remain. Yet, I can only imagine that at least some of them will continue to follow their yearly ritual, continue to hibernate through a frozen winter, continue to set the land ablaze in yellow each spring. Long after Marty is gone, generations of daffodils will live on, a remembrance of a sower who once cast a vision for that little piece of our planet. So, dear ones, what I really want to say to you today is that you are every bit as beautiful and valuable and resilient as Marty's daffodils. This community has scattered the seeds of Unitarian Universalism across the Finger Lakes, from Naples to Penyan, from Keuka to Honiohe, from Victor to Waterloo and beyond. And you keep doing it. When Kathy Keller shows up on a street corner in Phelps to hold vigil for peace, seeds are sown. When you gather with Lynn, cleaning up trash from the roadside, as you will in upcoming weekends. Today, next weekend, seeds are sown. When Joan or Jörn or countless others write letters to the editor with a passion for justice, seeds are sown. When Dorothy or so many others show up to build relationships and offer practical language support to migrant farm workers, seeds are sown. The Finger Lakes are ablaze with the seeds of our faith that you have sown. Remember, the sower's work is to sow the seeds. She is not responsible for the quality of the soil. You are here because you know the tremendous value of this religious community. You're here because you know, in one way or another, your soil was just right for the UU seed. And despite all the worries and anxieties, despite what will always be, because it must be, an uncertain future, you can rest in the deep knowing that whatever happens, there is good here that will carry on. This place, the building, the land may change. People will come and people will go. Ministers will come, ministers will go. Children will grow up, move away. Elders will grow old, pass on. Yet, like the fields of daffodils, what is beautiful here, what is good, what is of true value, will live on, renewed in unpredictable ways, generation by generation.
This sanctuary, this good place, this respite, is the space you hold for one another. Here and also in your living rooms, in your thoughts and prayers, it is the shelter that you offer one another in times of uncertainty and storm. Come as you are. That was an important part to get. Come in from the wildness and the storm and take a breath. You are a people who know how to care for one another. While it's not written on the sign out front, it is written in your spirit. Come on in and we will scoop up some extra love for you. On my leaving, our challenge, our hope for you is that you find a way to keep scooping up this love and spread it around. Carry it further out into the world. So many people are hurting, are longing for a place where it really is safe to come as they are. Really is a place to show up and find love. This is our Universalist heritage. It is the anchor of our faith. Farm workers need to hear this message. Farmers need to hear this message. Activists need to hear this message. Policymakers need to hear this message. Students need to hear this message. Teachers need to hear this message. Leaders need to hear this message, and loners need to hear this message. Tired parents need to hear this message, and worried kids, they need to hear this message too. Come as you are, and we will love you.
As Emily and I respectfully step back from our roles and relationships here, we offer our deepest gratitude to you for your trust and your openness to us. At the end of our time, we will not be in contact with you over the next 12 months in order to create space for the next ministers and leadership who will begin here in August. Part of the role of ministry is, as much as we are able to model what we ask of others, to model what we know to be healthy practices for community. And one of the essential pieces of ministry is to know when your time has come and to leave gracefully. While it might seem extreme, this is part of our professional covenant with our colleagues to not be in touch for a year, and part of our role in making space for new ministry to take root and to...
It is in moments like these that one of my mentors, the Reverend Kat Cox, reminds me how hard it is to love all who disappoint us and leave us. She also reminds me, however, that there are no other kind of people. It is a hard love, and truly there is no other kind.
A few lines of poetry to close. This is from E. Cummings. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I'm never without it.
Here is the deepest secret that nobody knows.
Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide.
And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart.
Here is the secret, the deepest secret nobody knows.
Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide.
And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart.
I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart.
Amen. Maybe so.
Blessed be.
Will you reach out and touch a hand or a shoulder? Let us be connected. We are one body. We depend upon one another more than we know. Will you join me in saying the closing words? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Oh yeah, this is probably not a good probably should be
No, yeah, no, it's on the 17th. But actually, maybe, yeah, we'll get
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.